Hello, my name is Adam Carberry. I'm a professor at Arizona State University and one of the investigators for the Making Grades Meaningful project. Today in this help video I'm going to discuss how to embed standards-based grading into Blackboard. What you can see here in a course that I'm currently teaching, I've created a series of submissions for the students to submit to, and you can see that they are submissions based on the logo here with the ruler and the pencil. To create one, you just simply go to Assessments, Assignment, and then fill out the information. All right, we're going to go into one of these assignments here just by clicking the Edit button. And the first thing that you want to focus on is ensuring that your assignment has a rubric set up for it under the grading section. You can see here that I have a rubric set up. I've labeled it S/CO. This is assessing two of my standards, systems thinking and communication and organization. You can add one of these rubrics by simply creating this add button, and once you've created them you can just select your rubric. But when creating a new rubric or editing a rubric, you just simply select and establish which of your particular standards you are assessing on this particular assignment, and then also the levels at which you're going to be assessing. You can see here I'm using an expert, advanced, intermediate, novice, and not assessed, using a 5-point scale from 4 to 0. All right. You want to ensure that you've set up this rubric, and you also want to check here that yes, the students can see the rubric. What will happen in Blackboard is that when you assign scores for each of the individual assignments of the individual standards, what will happen is the student will get a summation of those scores, but they can view the rubric and that will show them the breakdown for each one of the standards for a given assignment. So you want to make sure that you've got this button Yes selected. All right. Now what we want to do is actually look at one of our assignments. So let's go into our gradebook. Okay, so now I am viewing one of the students' submissions for one of the assignments that they had to submit. And what you can see when you're actually viewing an assignment is that it shows you what the rubric is and what you're grading the rubric on. It provides you with an opportunity to input a manual score. I'll show you in a second how to input in a rubric score. And it also allows you to provide feedback to the students. There are a number of places to provide feedback for the team in this particular case or an individual student. Here's the first spot. In order to assign the grade, we want to click on this rubric option to view it and assign a grade. So when the rubric opens up, it allows me to see either in a grid view or a list view the rubric that I established. And it allows me to choose what the grade is, and I just simply click on the option that I feel is most appropriate for that student group. Here is the second opportunity you have to provide feedback, if you would like, on an individual basis for each one of your standards. In this particular case, I'm looking at 2, modeling and communication and organization. You also have an opportunity to provide additional feedback here, but as you can see, students will not see this feedback unless you set the rubric grading score to be visible to the students. So make sure that you are putting your feedback in a place that the students will be able to see that information. When you hit save on this, it will automatically populate the score, and you can see that these students right here had a score of 8, and I just simply click my submit button. For the sake of anonymity, I'm going to be finishing this presentation using a PowerPoint so that I can block out the students' names. But what you can see is what my gradebook looks like. And so you can see the Submit Google. That's actually the assignment that was created when we first started this video as an assessment within Blackboard, and it automatically populates your gradebook with that assignment. You can also see the summation of the score. So in this particular case, there were 3 standards or learning objectives that were assessed for this particular project. All right, and you can see the student's total score out of 12. All right, and this is what the students see. Again, you need to make sure you select the rubric option so students can click on this score and see what the breakdown is by learning objective. All right. What I've also done though is created sort of hidden columns. Okay, these hidden columns are to allow me to break this down. All right, so what I need to do is pull out the individual scores for each one of my standards so that I can calculate my overall RTE score, my overall CO score, and my overall T score for this for the overall final project, which is what this assignment is one component of. So what I've done is created these hidden columns, and again, they're hidden, and you just select the hidden option when you use the drop-down menu, because students don't need to see it. They know the breakdown because they can look at the rubric. I need these hidden columns because a value of 7 doesn't allow me to calculate my individual RTE score that's out of 4 in my particular case. Okay. So you want to create these hidden columns. This is sort of the time-intensive component of Blackboard. It's wonderful if you have a grader to just simply type in these scores manually that they get from the rubric. And usually I'll transfer this over using an Excel document as my intermediary. All right. Now, for my particular class, I used some averaging and weights. So for each project, and I had 3 projects in this class, what I did was I averaged the scores within a project, and then each project was weighted differently for their overall score. All right. So you can see at the beginning of each one of the projects, I created an average calculation column for each one of my standards or learning objectives. You see my DB, my M, my S, my RT, my CO, and so on and so forth. Okay. This is done by just simply creating a calculated column, and you can get that by selecting the Create Calculated Column and choose an average. Okay. When you choose that option, it allows you to select whatever columns you want to calculate that average. And so for me, this is an example of calculating everything that was for the final project for RTE, Research, Testing, and Evaluation. I selected all of those components, and now there will be an average score for that project for this standard, for this particular learning outcome. Okay. I also used weights across the various different projects in my class. And so what you can see here in my grade book, I have my current final grade, but then I also have DB weighted, M weighted, S weighted, and so on and so forth. How I calculated these weighted scores is I took those average scores for each project and then weighted each one depending on how important the project was towards their final grade. Again, to create a weighted column, you simply select the Create Calculated Column and you'll see a weighted option. All right. And what you'll get when you create that is the opportunity to grab your average scores for each one of your projects. Here I'm calculating my weighted score for all my RTE scores. And you can see that for the first 2 projects, they were worth 25%. The final project, it was worth 50%. And so that allows me to create my total calculated score for RTE. All right, that final grade is determined by using all of these weighted scores across the projects. What's really nice about this, and one thing that I just want to touch on before I finish this, before I move on to the overall score, is that this is super, super helpful in terms of ABET reporting. And so what you can see is that I've got my various different learning outcomes, and I've created these vectors based on various different scores, and I'm able to look at these weighted scores for each one of the individual learning outcomes I have for this class and provide a performance vector for each one. And so this really streamlines that process. But what I wanted to show you final is my final overall course grade is calculated by using those weighted columns. And so you can see that each one of the learning outcomes for this course had a different weight. And by using the weighted scores across the projects, I can then determine what the overall score is. And this is simply done again by just creating another weighted column, which becomes your final course grade.